LeetCode Problem 20, valid parenthesis. Given a string containing just the following characters, determine if the input string is valid. An input string is valid if 1. Open brackets must be closed by the same type of brackets. 2. Open brackets must be closed in the correct order. And 3. Every closed bracket has a corresponding open bracket of the same type. Example 1. We can see that the output is true. Example 2, we can see the output is true. And example 3, we can see the output is false, because we don't have corresponding open and closing brackets, and the brackets do not correspond to the same type. The approach that we're going to be taking is called stack-based matching. It has a time complexity of O of n and a space complexity of O of n, and it's the optimal solution to this problem. Now let's walk through an example where we're given the following string with the following characters. Step 1. We want to declare a map to map the parenthesis. The keys in the map are going to be the opening brackets and the values are going to be the corresponding closing brackets. Step 2. Create an empty stack. Step 3. Loop over the string using a for loop, applying the following logic. So we go to the first character, which is an opening bracket, and we check if it's a key in the map, which yes it is. So we want to push that character onto the stack. You can see it here. Then we update the pointer and go to the next character in the string. We check if that's a key in the map, which yes it is. We then want to push that onto the stack. Then we go to the next character in the string. We check if that is a key in the map, which no it's not. So we then want to go and we want to stack pop and store the value. And then we want to check if that value does not equal the corresponding character. Well, it does, so this is not true and we can ignore the return false. We then update the pointer and go to the next character in the string. We check if that is a key in the map, which it is not. So again, we then want to stack pop and store the value. And we want to check if the corresponding character of that value does not equal the current character we're on. We can see they do correspond, so again, we can ignore the return false. We've got to the end of the string, so now we break out of the for loop, and step 4, return true if the stack is empty and false if it's not. We can clearly see the stack is empty, so return true. Well, thank you very much for watching. It's as easy as that. Why not pause the video and try to implement a solution yourself? If not, stay tuned for my solution next. Let's look at LeetCode 20, valid parenthesis. In Java, given a string s containing just the characters seen here, determine if the input string is valid. An input string is valid if 1. Open brackets must be closed by the same type of brackets. 2. Open brackets must be closed in the correct order. And 3. Every closed bracket has a corresponding open bracket of the same type. Example 1. S is equal to open bracket, closed bracket. You can see that that's true because we have an open and a close and they have the same type. Example 2. S is equal to the following. We can see that that's true because each of the open brackets is closed by a corresponding bracket of the same type in the correct order. Example 3 we can see is false because we have an open and a closing bracket, but they're not of the corresponding type. And then finally, example 4, we can see that this is true because we've got corresponding open and closing brackets in the correct order. So there's 3 main edge cases I can think of. The first one would be where you're given an empty string. In that scenario, you should return true because the parenthesis can't be incorrect if there are no parentheses. Second edge case that I can think of would be where you're given an 1 or an odd number in terms of string length. If you've got an odd length of the string, then you have an odd number of parentheses, which means you can't have corresponding parenthesis, which means it's always going to be false. And then the third scenario would be where you have a even number of characters in the string, but you do not have matching parenthesis. So in that scenario, again, it's going to be false. Let's get into the solution. So the first thing we want to do is we want to declare a hash map. So we want to use character, call it map equals new hash map, and we're going to do map dot put, and we want to put the key. The key is going to be the open bracket, and the value is going to be the closing bracket. So we've got 3 types of bracket, so let's put 3 of these here. So we'll start with this bracket, put in the corresponding closing. So, whoops. Corresponding closing, and the square brackets with the corresponding closing. Great. So the next thing we want to do then is declare a stack. Call it stack, set it equal to new stack, equals new stack. And then the third step, we want to loop over each character in the string using a while loop. And then I is less than s dot length, I plus plus, then if, so we want to say if this is a key of map, so if map dot contains key of the current character, so s dot character at I. So if it is a key, if it's an open bracket, then we want to do stack dot put push stack dot push the current character, else we have a closing bracket. We want to firstly to make sure that we have something in a stack. So stack. So if stack dot is empty. If the stack is empty, we want to say that the parentheses are invalid, so we return false, because we have a closing bracket that doesn't have a corresponding opening bracket. Then we'll say character val is equal to stack dot pop, so pop off the top of the stack and check if, so map dot get val. So what we've just taken off the stack is the last opening bracket that we've seen. So we want to then validate to make sure that if the corresponding closing bracket to the last opening bracket we've just popped off, if they do not correspond, then we want to return false. So the current character that we've got is is the closing bracket that we're looking at. Does it correspond to the map? If it does not, then we return false. Cool. And that's everything inside the for loop. And the final thing we want to do is we want to return stack dot is empty. If the stack is not empty, it means that we've got some remaining opening brackets that have not been closed. So in that scenario, obviously the parentheses are not going to be valid. So we'll run that, see if it works. It doesn't, so what's up with it? I've spelled character wrong. Cool. Try again. Oops. Again, spelled character wrong. Should have checked that. Was that it? Cool. Now let's submit that, see if it passes. It does pass, and according to this, it beats 8.69 in terms of runtime and 72.1% in terms of memory. I can tell you that the runtime complexity of this solution is O of n, and the space complexity is also O of n. This is the optimal solution to the problem. And thank you very much for watching. I hope that this video has clarified the solution for you. If you like the video, please click like. And if you could click subscribe, that's going to hugely help me and the channel out, and I'd hugely appreciate it. Well, thank you very much for watching, and good luck with your coding.